Ms. Joaquin Murray, Chief Technical Director, Office of the Prime Minister, His Excellency Mayank Joshi, Indian High Commissioner to Jamaica, Dr. Tomlin Paul, Deputy Principal, UWI, Mona, representing Professor Denzel Williams, who is the principal, Jeremy White, Campus CIO, Dr. David McBean, Executive Director of MSBM, Mr. Matthew McNaughton, Director for Inclusion, Safeguards, and Civil Society Engagement, co-develop, our major partner in hosting this conference, Dr. Maurice McNaughton and Professor Gunja Manzing, conference co-chairs. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Ms. Natasha Marsov, Country Rep, IDB. Mr. Rodney Taylor, Secretary General, Caribbean Telecommunications Union, or CTU. Dr. Daniel Obadi, Head of Partnerships, Center of Digital Public Infrastructure, and our keynote presenter this morning. To our esteemed presenters, our panelists representing over 30 countries, to our partners, we mentioned earlier, co-develop, our other partners, Mona School of Business and Management, the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, CTU, Data for Development, the Caribbean Open Institute, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends of the media all, good morning and welcome to the Caribbean DPI Summit 2025. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was awake and alive and well. Okay, so I'm excited to be here, not just because I'm a morning person, but I kind of want us to put it into perspective why I think everyone in the room should be excited. For those of us in Jamaica, we would have been here March 10, 2020. We get the confirmation that COVID was confirmed. And I think for most of us, for all of us, overnight, everything changed. Not just for us, but for the region and the world at large. Access to healthcare, telemedicine, what was that? Making payments, what was that? People who had businesses that were not online, how were they now going to have a livelihood? Education, how were our children still going to remain connected? What about verification processes? Were banks and the government at large able to verify who we were based on documents? Answer is no. And it wasn't just for us, it was for everyone. And so when we think of DPI, we understand that we're speaking about digital transformation, and not digital transformation just for crises, but that this should be a way of life. We're doing business and interacting with the government should be quite simple. So why should we be excited? Well, because we're looking for solutions. The Mona School of Business and Management is not a talk shop. They're about executing, implementing. How can we do the knowledge exchange? And so the fact that we have people from over 30 countries in the world descending right here in Jamaica for an initiative to figure out what are the next steps, I think we should be very excited. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Caribbean DPI Summit 2025. I hope you have gotten your bun and cheese, your jerk chicken, that you've gotten your coconut water to wash off your heart. Even though this is a Caribbean summit and we're looking for digital solutions within the Caribbean, how nice it is that we get to exchange with persons from all over the world because we get various perspectives. I understand we have persons here from Brazil, Bom Dia, Switzerland, Grutzi. I think we have people from Guadeloupe. Bonjour. Anybody in the room from Guadeloupe? Haiti, Kijanouye? Bueno, un pajarito me dijo que hay hispanohablantes aquí, ¿es verdad? ¿Dónde están? Dame un ruido, por favor. ¿Dónde están? Panama, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay. Thank you so very much for being here. Welcome, everyone. My name is Terry Carell. It is my pleasure to serve you in the capacity of host this morning, and I certainly hope to learn as much from you as you learn from everyone else who is on this stage. The person given the task of delivering the overview of the conference, why are we here? Why is this important over the next 3 days? I will hand it over to Dr. Maurice McNaughton, Conference Co-Chair, Director, Center of Excellence, representing the Mona School of Business and Management. Please make him welcome.
I'm going to follow Terry Carroll's lead and say, Buenos dias, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Terry Carroll, thank you very much. And always a pleasure to share stage with you. And if you don't mind, I'll observe prior established protocol and just say welcome to all dignitaries, government officials, partners, sponsors, colleagues, and friends from Jamaica, from the Caribbean, and really from the world. Can't tell you how delighted I am that we're having this forum. And I express that welcome on behalf of my co-chairs, Professor Gunjan Man Singh and Aura Cifuentes. Aura is someone here from co-develop. Okay, so we'll have welcomes from others through the course of this segment. So I really just want to say this is an immense pleasure to have this gathering here to discuss a topic that is of critical importance to the Caribbean. Not only for our digital transformation agenda, but for our development agenda. We started conceptualizing this forum, this event, Gunjan, Matthew, maybe first quarter 2003, I think. And we sort of played around with the idea. And again, our partners co-developed. I don't think partner is a strong enough word. Not because I'm connected to Matthew, but institutionally as a partner, they have not only been our primary sponsors, but excellent collaborators in the execution of this event. So I really have to give a shout out to co-develop for that. And as we conceptualize this, Gunjan and I had the opportunity to attend the Global DPI Summit in Cairo, Egypt, back in October. And we were absolutely inspired by what we saw. And we were convinced that we had to bring a similar activity, event, to the Caribbean. And, we have multiple ambitions for this event. First and foremost, just knowledge sharing. DPI is an important catalyst for digital transformation. I could not express it better than Terry Carroll did in terms of how important that is to the Caribbean development agenda. So knowledge sharing, a whole bunch of experts in the room, various country experiences, not only from the Caribbean and Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominican Republic, but country experiences from around the world. Brazil, Rwanda is actually quite a fascinating case. I think Gunjan saw that in Cairo and said, we have to bring these guys to our forum. So knowledge sharing is one ambition. Another ambition, which is going to be a recurrent theme throughout, is regional cooperation. I'm long past the days when I think that sovereignty is more important than collaboration. That's just me. But the absolute truth is that many of the solutions that we're after are going to be more accessible if we pursue them as a region. So you'll see that as a recurrent theme throughout our discussions. The third ambition we have is to be very clear and define a very explicit role for academia, University of the West Indies in all of this. Not just as a convener, and I'm sure my boss will speak about that, but we believe there are enormous opportunities in research, enormous opportunities in capacity building. I mean, research, for instance, we need to figure out why 5 digital mobile payment solutions have failed in Jamaica in its course of 8 years. We need to understand that before we pursue another digital payment solution. So that's 2, regional cooperation. 3, UA and academia's role. And the fourth thing, and you'll see it in the way this agenda is constructed, we're not just talking about this. We're not just up here in academia having interesting discussions. we believe in coming out of this with an action-oriented roadmap, which says, here's how we pursue some of these initiatives. So you'll see that we have a very intense agenda, and I have absolutely no apology for that. I know it's 2.5 full days, and panel discussions, keynotes, opportunities for networking, and of course, immersion workshops are an important element of this agenda. And I know Jamaica can be a very distracting place, especially for those of you who are here for the first time. So please, let us make the most of this opportunity and this gathering. I mean, what we have assembled in this room are, you know, I can't think of a better place to have this gathering assembled than here in the Caribbean and here at the University of the West Indies. And by the end of day 2, we're going to have a gathering and a celebration in true Jamaican style. So you'll be able to let your hair down tomorrow evening. And of course, I know some of you will have a few days after the conference. So, listen, I look forward to the discussions, the discourse, the engagements that we'll have over the next few days and what is to follow. So thank you all again for being here at UA in Kingston, Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and for excellent host.
Thank you so very much, Dr. McNaughton. And certainly, as you are inviting everyone to let down their hair, tomorrow, we certainly encourage you and invite you to let down your hair as well. What he said, I mean, the biggest takeaways for me naturally is, collaboration over competition. If we have persons in the room and something is working right for them and their society, then why not share it? Let's look at collaboration over competition, not just over the next 2.5 days, but in all the facets that we work in and the different communities that we touch. There's a saying that if you want to go fast, you go alone. And if you want to go far, then you go together, which means that there is strength in numbers. And it's no longer okay to just be Jamaica or Trinidad, but the numbers and the knowledge that we have as a region, why not? And certainly we thank UWI for the platform that it has. We understand what UWI represents, not just in the region, but in the world. And to be able to attract the best minds in a room is fantastic. But congratulations also to Co-Develop and of course Mona School of Business and Management for being the catalyst and being the driver and deciding to take this to the next level. So Dr. McNaughton, I'm sure on behalf of everyone here, we thank you so very much for that warm welcome and that overview. And buenos dias, señor. Buenos dias. So we have partners, we have persons, we have entities without whom none of this would be possible. We spoke about UWI being the great convener, especially as it relates to being an institutional fabric, creating some of the best minds as well, educating the best minds, and of course, capacity building and research. We welcome Deputy Principal of UWI Mona, Dr. Tomlin Paul, to bring greetings. Please make him welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. All protocols observed. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge, however, our High Commissioner, Indian High Commissioner to Jamaica, His Excellency Mayank Joshi, and all of our distinguished guests or partners, members of the university community, our faculty, students, but very special welcome. We saw a lot of hands for those who are visiting Jamaica for the first time, and so also visiting our University of the West Indies for the first time. I want to bid you a very special welcome. It's really a privilege to welcome you all and to bring remarks at this Caribbean Digital Public Infrastructure Summit 2025. On behalf of my principal, our principal for the campus, Professor Denzel Williams, and the entire campus administration, I bid you a warm welcome. And I want to say that our university, the vision for UWI is to be an excellent global university rooted in the Caribbean. And when we have events like these, where we have colleagues and visitors from across the world, we feel like we are really on the right track in terms of building that global connectedness and that global university that we have that very strong vision for. So, colleagues, I believe we gather at a time when our region, I would say, continues to face challenges, economic development challenges with climate change. That's a biggie for us. And at the same time, as we have challenges, we have unprecedented opportunities. We have always, you look at a challenge and we are not dismayed, but we feel energized to look at the opportunities within. And one of the challenges within the landscape right now lies within the whole area of digital public infrastructure, DPI. DPI is that somewhat invisible yet powerful system or systems that make it possible for citizens to do a number of things, to access services, as we heard, to move money, to verify their identity, among other things, but really to participate in what we'll call the digital economy. The digital economy. And we have seen, and we'll see from this in this conference, what's possible in other parts of the world, whether India, across Africa, Latin America. We see good examples of developments on DPI happening. I'll share with you that I worked just before taking on this job. I worked in Rwanda for 2 years, and I heard my colleague Maurice speaking about. We have a colleague from Rwanda here, yes? Somewhere in the audience, yeah? But I spent 2 years working in Rwanda, and one of the things that, as I landed in Rwanda, I realized I had to learn a new word. Of course, the language of Rwanda is Kinyarwanda, and there's lots of words in there. But there's one word that caught me very quickly as I came out of the airport, got to the taxi, and that word was Momo. And said, "Do you have Momo?" And for the 2 years I spent there, Momo became just a common word that I began using. Mobile money. Mobile money, Momo. I used Momo. I realized that cash was not so much the thing. I walked with cash and my credit card. But when I offered people cash, "Do you have Momo?" So I went for a haircut. The barber says, "Momo." I go to the supermarket, buy a whole heap of stuff and have a bill to pay. I say, "Momo," the number is there. I go to pay my rent. My landlord comes. I have cash ready for him. He said, "You have Momo?" Yeah. So everywhere you saw the utilization of mobile money. Paying for little things, paying for big things. It didn't matter. It was an inclusive payment system that was connected to everything, my telephone bill, everything. And it became quite easy. And I became a part of that. It worked well. There were no challenges I had over the 2 years that I was there. But colleagues, I think the question we must answer for us here in the Caribbean is, what does meaningful, sustainable DPI look like for us in small island developing countries, the small countries that we are, with limited fiscal space, with the challenges that we have in terms of the vulnerability of our economies, now in a global ecosystem with lots of tariffs, deeply rooted social needs that we have. So we have a lot of sort of ecosystem challenges around the whole area of getting DPI going. And this makes very interesting conversation, which I'm sure we'll have discourse on as the days go by at this conference. But I believe that for our small island states, DPI is not a luxury. It's not a futuristic concept. It is a reality. It is a foundational requirement for our survival, for innovation, and for inclusive growth. As an academic institution, the University of the West Indies, here at Mona, and I dare say our whole university system, is not only a hub for research and learning, but is a key partner in regional development. And that is why this conference is so critical for us in terms of our role, our mission that we have for transformation of the region, and sitting as the #1 university in the region, as a leader in terms of thought development and going forward. We really feel that this is important. So we're very proud to co-host, to be a part of this summit, because it really aligns with our mission. From developing, there are lots of benefits we see coming from for the university out of this discourse and out of that agenda that Dr. McNaughton spoke about that we'll develop. We see things like curriculum development development in digital governance and cybersecurity. We have some programs like that coming on. Exploring the policy, legal, and ethical dimensions of digital identity and payments. There's enormous potential for us to create knowledge that is relevant, rigorous, and rooted in the Caribbean experience. From my own background in health, I see there's lots the research that we can leverage out of a functional DPI in terms of things like genomics research, impact of climate change on health, getting that infrastructure ready and up and running will be critical. So we envisage a lot of benefits for us from this summit. We believe that the digital infrastructure that we build must be people-centered, and we must shape those tools with Caribbean realities in mind. Over the next 3 days, you'll hear a lot, I know, from the policymakers, innovators, civil society leaders, and researchers. And I see this summit as more than just an event, but certainly a space for collective learning and shared visioning. So let this be the moment where we stop asking whether digital transformation is possible and instead begin to design how it will be done together. I wish to thank the organizers. Many persons have come together. You heard from Dr. McNaughton, many agencies. I want to thank everyone, all of our partners, international and local, who have come together to make this event possible. We remain committed to being a catalyst here at UWI in building Caribbean futures, powered by knowledge, driven by collaboration, and supported by the right infrastructure. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish you all a very productive summit. Thank you.
Very well said, sir. Momo, thank you so very much. The theme is DPI, challenges and opportunities for small island developing states. And something that you said that really made me, it resonated is the fact that wherever we see a challenge, naturally there is an opportunity. The question is how many of us will see it and then work towards trying to find that solution. So there's hope and we can be inspired and energized to find solutions. Something else that you said was you spoke to the inclusivity when you were in Rwanda. And I think that's what's very important, that even while we're speaking about digital transformation, it isn't for the haves to continue to have more, but to also bring the persons who are most vulnerable. So we're looking at disabled, we're looking at impoverished, we're looking at marginalized. And certainly I think at BPW in St. Kitts just last year in November, there was a particular story of a woman from an African village who had to walk for miles to get from her home to her market to sell her goods. But of course, she's collecting cash. And by the time she would leave from the market to head back home, what did you think would happen to that cash? There were people who held her up, who robbed her because of it. And the moment they went in and they decided to implement digital transformation within this particular village, she was now able to go to her market, sell her goods. It might not have been Momo, but it was something similar. So now she was collecting her cash or collecting her payments digitally, which made it safer by the time she got home. And there's so many other examples, similar and simple examples around the world where, as was said, it isn't just something futuristic, but something foundational. So again, thank you so very much, Dr. Paul, for that welcome and congratulations again to UWI and all it continues to do. So we now move to the Chief Technical Director from the Office of the Prime Minister, Ms. Joaquin Murray, to deliver her greetings. Please, let us welcome her.
Dr. Terry Carell, host, His Excellence Mayank Joshi, Indian High Commissioner of Jamaica, Miss Natasha Marzel, Country Representative for the Inter-American Development Bank, other distinguished guests, partners, presenters, participants, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning. It is truly an honor to bring greetings on behalf of the Office of the Prime Minister, which I think most persons know have portfolio responsibility for ICT and digital transformation. As we open this inaugural Caribbean Digital Public Infrastructure Summit under the theme DPI, Challenges and Opportunities for Small Island Developing States. To those who have traveled from across the region and beyond, welcome to Jamaica. Your presence here reflects a shared commitment to shape a digital future that uplifts our entire Caribbean community. Let me begin by extending my deepest gratitude to the hosts University of the West Indies Mona campus, represented here by Deputy Principal Dr. Tomlin Paul, Dr. David McBean, the Executive Director for the Mona School of Business and Management, and of course our partner, Co-Develop, represented by quite a few persons, but I'm going to single out Matthew McNaughton, the Director for Inclusion, Safeguards, and Civil Society Engagement. I also want to thank the summit chairs, Dr. Maurice McNaughton and Professor Gunjan Mansingh, for their tireless work in bringing us together. Ladies and gentlemen, this gathering is more than just a summit. It is a call to action. Over the 2.5 days, we have a rare opportunity to align our expertise, resources, and vision to build a digital infrastructure that serves all Caribbean people efficiently, securely, and inclusively. The government of Jamaica understands that digital transformation is no longer a choice. It is an urgent imperative. We have placed it at the heart of our national agenda and are committed to modernizing infrastructure, revolutionizing service delivery, and ensuring that no Jamaican is excluded from the opportunities of this digital era. So let us approach the summit with urgency, collaboration, and bold thinking. The decisions we make here will echo far beyond this room, impacting how our governments serve, how our economies grow, and how our citizens thrive in an increasingly digital world. With respect to the development of DPI in Jamaica, we are paving a path for the development of the same, as it establishes the foundational DPI building blocks such as digital ID, data sharing, and digital payments. And I know that when the head of our ICT authority speaks a little later, you'll get a sense as to what it is that we are doing in Jamaica specifically. Already this commitment is taking shape. Just last week, the government of Jamaica took a decisive step by integrating the Registrar General's Department under the National Identification and Registration Authority. This consolidation ensures Jamaica will have a modern, unified system for identity and civil registration, which is secure, efficient, and designed to serve generations to come. Beyond identity, we are laying the foundation for a digitally empowered government through the Information and Communications Technology Authority, which has been established and which came into force on April 2, 2025. That organization's mandate is to provide ICT shared services to government, ministries, and departments, and in line with that mandate will be the orchestrator of our digital public infrastructure strategy, ensuring that every layer of our digital ecosystem works together seamlessly. This summit presents a unique opportunity for us to learn from those who have trod this path. I eagerly anticipate the transformative, stimulating, and informative discussions that will undoubtedly take place over these 2.5 days. And I am confident that this summit will mark the beginning of a new chapter for our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you for bringing those greetings. Certainly, urgency, collaboration, bold thinking over the next 2.5 days will be the approach. And certainly, we like a government that takes the lead because oftentimes societies are shaped by the work of the government. We'd like to now welcome Ms. Natasha Marsov, country representative representing the Inter-American Development Bank, one of our biggest partners, and she was just appointed to Jamaica October 2024, and I know you hit the ground running. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Natasha Marsov of IDB.
Good morning. Bonjour. Buenos dias y bon dia. Ms. Joaquin Murray, Chief Technical Director, Office of the Prime Minister. Dr. Tomlin Paul, Deputy Principal of HUI, MONA. Dr. Maurice McNaughton, Conference Co-Chair, Director, Center of Excellence, MONA School of Business and Management. Mr. Matthew McNaughton, Director for Inclusion, Safeguards and Civil Society Engagement, Co-Develop, partners, private sector, stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today. and welcome you on behalf of the Inter-American Development Bank. The Caribbean Digital Public Infrastructure Summit, DPI, here in Jamaica. I want to thank Co-Develop, UWI, for inviting us to be part of this important event. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a milestone moment for the digital future of the region. It is not only a celebration of progress, it is a call to action for the Caribbean to build the digital foundations that will enable a more inclusive, resilient, and prosperous future. At the Inter-American Development Bank, we believe that digital public infrastructure is not just a technical enabler, but rather a critical piece of development architecture and a must-have for the future. Systems like digital identity, digital payments, and interoperability platforms are essential for expanding and scaling up access to public services, strengthening public institutions, and unlocking new opportunities for innovation, entrepreneurship, and regional integration. IDB's three core objectives as an institution: reducing poverty and inequality, addressing climate change challenges, and fostering sustainable growth, cannot be achieved without digital and a people-centered public system. Here in Jamaica, we have been very honored to work with the government on several transformative initiatives that place DPI at the heart of public service delivery, and most importantly, to provide better services to each Jamaican citizen. Let me highlight a little bit about our work. First, we are supporting the government of Jamaica in expanding its service delivery channels to its citizens, online, to physical one-stop shops, and via a Government of Jamaica chatbot, or your AI assistant, as I call it. Cross-government back offices tools for data exchange and processing, and investing in digital talent across the public sector. This will be a game changer for Jamaica, and it will be also a greater institutional coordination amongst its public agencies and ministries. Second, we are also helping to build the National Cyber Incident Response Team, or CERT, and expand Jamaica's cybersecurity talent pipeline, critical for protecting national infrastructure and interest, maintaining trust in digital systems, and very important as well, tackling cybercrime. Third, we have partnered with Co-Develop, one of today's events organizers, to support the rapid deployment of DPI across Latin America and the Caribbean. Through this initiative, Jamaica is developing an end-to-end verifiable credential use case with eGov Jamaica. Last but not least, we are also supporting the development of Jambot, a WhatsApp-based chatbot that allows users, particularly those with limited access to digital services, to ask questions and perform key transactions using natural language, including patois. This is a powerful example of how digital public infrastructure can be inclusive by design, reaching Jamaicans where they are and how they speak. This is how the Inter-American Development Bank helps close the digital gap in Jamaica. Let me also highlight that our efforts in Jamaica are part of a much broader regional push. From Belize to Barbados, from Trinidad and Tobago to the Bahamas, countries across the Caribbean are recognizing the power of DPI to accelerate development. That is why this summit is so timely. It is a space to share progress, confront shared challenges, discuss, brainstorm, share experiences and lessons learned, and together shape a collective path forward. I'm also very pleased to see such a strong focus on open source in the summit agenda. Across the Caribbean, we are witnessing growing momentum around open source approaches to DPI, not just as a cost-effective or transparent alternative, but as a strategic choice to advance digital sovereignty, sustainability, and regional collaboration. In both Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, the verifiable credential use cases are being built as an open source technology. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have our first digital transformation loan operation. And we are facilitating there the creation of the country's first open source program office together with UNDP. To support this growing demand in the region, the IDB Code for Development Program, our open source program office, is working hand in hand with our specialists and governments across the region to provide technical guidance, connect with global communities, and help ensure that these tools remain accessible, adaptable, and aligned with each country's digital sovereignty goal. In conclusion, let me add that technology alone is not enough. Governance, regulation, interoperability, ethics, talent, and inclusivity matter just as much. Tackling cybercrime is also a priority. That is why the IDB is not just investing in digital systems. We are also investing in the ecosystems and the partnerships that will ensure that no one is left behind in this new digital world. Once again, thank you so much to UE and to Co-Develop for offering such an important space for discussion, but also to the government of Jamaica for partnering with the IDB on the path of digital transformation. It's an honor to be on this journey together. We are committed to be working with each one of you to build the foundations for digital prosperity made in the Caribbean and for the Caribbean. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for your discussion that we know will be productive and very successful. Thank you for having us.
Very well said. Thank you so very much, Ms. Marsov, talking about progress. And it's a call to action for the Caribbean, not for this to be band-aids or quick fixes, but rather really looking at idea to implementation, strategies, steps, the solutions, and the sensitization of a culture, right? You have persons who still don't even want to use an ATM. So how do we now sensitize our citizens to understand that this will help them going forward? Technology is just not enough. And we thank you so very much for rounding everything and including everything. Now, we've heard co-develop mentioned quite a lot. And it is evident, it was said earlier by Dr. McNaughton, that really and truly it goes beyond a partnership. Just calling them partners is really a gross understatement, if I will. And at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Matthew McNaughton, Director for Inclusion, Safeguards, and Civil Society Engagement, Co-Develop, our partner. Please welcome him.
Good morning. Wow, look at this room. You know, it is always a blessing when we get together as Caribbean people and friends and collaborators who are partners to the region and who are also invested in helping us advance this place that we call home. And so I'm very honored to be able to extend greetings to you all on behalf of our team at Co-Develop. Thank you to the chair, to our host, all protocols observed, Dr. Principal, Deputy Principal, Dr. Tomlin Paul, Chief Technical Director, Ms. Joaquin Murray, Dr. Natasha, Mrs. Natasha Marzoff, the IDB rep for Jamaica. Thank you. Dr. David McBean, Executive Director for the Mona School of Business and Management. Colleagues, members of the media, welcome. Thank you all for coming both near and far to us today. And I think we've heard this name co-develop a little bit over this morning. And so I want to give a little bit of context for those who may not be familiar with the organization. We are a grant-making and resource mobilization organization that was founded with one central mission, and that is to support countries on their DPI journey. Our goal is to do that with 50 countries in 5 years, and we have active programs in more than 30 countries right now, supporting everything from South Africa's GDC or the G20 presidency to implementations in Trinidad and the Dominican Republic, across the region. And we do that through supporting technical assistance, investments in technology, strengthening of safeguards and governance of these systems, as well as research and measurement of impact so that we can better understand who is participating, who is benefiting, and ultimately how do we bridge that gap. And last year, as IDB rep mentioned, we announced a special funding window just for the Caribbean. Because even as the discussions are taking place globally, we had recognized that in some of those spaces, we weren't really seeing as much participation for the region. And at that time, we actually received more than 17 proposals from governments in the region. It initially selected Jamaica and Dominican Republic, but have continued working with many of our partners through many other islands across the region. And, when Dr. McNaughton and Dr. Mansing mentioned, we want to do this at similar event here in Jamaica. I mean, for me, it was an obvious yes, right? And I think one of the reasons for that, and I think we've heard a little bit of that this morning, and it's something I've been wrestling with also personally, is this question of what is the DPI journey for small countries, small islands like ourselves going to look like? Because we do have different challenges in terms of capacity. In a way, scale for us is different. I mean, I know we'll hear from our colleagues in India, 1.2 billion people. But it's different when you need to serve a community of 10,000 people, as well as cities that are 500,000 or more. And how do you ultimately create an infrastructure that facilitates inclusion in ways that have that great diversity, which is what we wrestle with here in the Caribbean. And I hope, over the next couple of days, you'll hear a little bit more about this DPI approach. I'm looking forward to Dan's keynote this morning. And the DPI approach to digital transformation has emerged over the last decade as this alternative model for countries to pursue and accelerate their DPI, implement their digitization journeys. But I think one of the things that I hope you will hear and that we will discuss and wrestle with is that this DPI journey is no longer an India story. It's no longer just a Estonia story. Many of us have heard and kind of talked about Estonia and X-Road. But it's also Kenyan, it's Rwandese, it's Brazilian, it's Dominican. We'll hear from Trinidad, it's Trinidadian, and also Jamaican. And we have an opportunity to make that work for the entire region, but faster. Because we often speak about and talk about scale in terms of scale of impact and scale of adoption, but speed is a component of scale. And it is often forgotten that that is a very critical dimension. In what time horizon do we want to accomplish the things that we want to do? And so if there's one question that I would say motivates me, motivated the organization of this event, and I'm hoping will animate the discussions that we all have, it is this, that how can we as a Caribbean region, both collectively and individually, build countries that match the ambition of our people? Because our region, people are leaving the Caribbean to pursue their ambitions elsewhere. And I think there's an opportunity to make this place somewhere from which we can all do that. grow successful companies, have successful careers, live safe, prosperous families. And so as we move through the discussions, I think we want to pursue that goal faster than we have over the last 6 years and hopefully make a plan, not as Terry said, MSB is not a talking shop. And the agenda that we've put together is very much structured around what can we do this year? What can we do over the next 6 months? I know the CTU, Rodney, is here. They're going to be having their ministerial meeting in September. So there's an opportunity for us to come back this year to talk about what we've done over the 6 months as we move more quickly towards our goals. And so I end by saying congratulations to the URI team. Thank you for bringing us all together for what I hope will be an excellent 2.5 days. And I'm looking forward to that discussion with you all, and that co-develop is here to support all of the countries of the region in their respective journeys. Thank you.
How beautifully said. Is co-develop hiring? Are you guys looking for volunteers on the ground? Let us have a conversation afterwards. If you heard a woo over in the corner there, I wasn't having a heart attack, but it was a drop mic moment for me when he said, we need to look at how countries can collectively and individually match the ambition of its people. When he said that, my heart said, absolutely. If we had the pot covers as we do in Jamaica, when we want to celebrate a particular moment, we take out our pot covers. For some people, it's vuvuzelas. For some people, it's horns. But that's just it. How do we create a society, and how do we create a region that matches the ambition of its people to the point where not only do we want to stay here, but we want our families to stay here, and we attract even more talent from outside the region to want to come here as well. Very well said, and I can understand why you would make and co-develop and the team would make great partners. Thank you so very much for that, Sir Matthew. And our final person bringing greetings this morning, Dr. David McBee, Executive Director, Mona School of Business and Management. Please make him welcome.
Morning, everybody. I know I'm standing between you and lunch and I think, but good morning, everybody. When you're coming after all the bright people have spoken, there's not much to say. But I'd like to thank all of you for coming, all protocols observed. But I would especially like to thank our partners, the IDB, our main partner, co-develop, of course, the two McNaughtons bookended. In fact, I thought I would not be speaking after McNaughton. The IDB, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, Data for Development, and the Caribbean Open Institute. I would like to say that as part of the university, and particularly the business school, which provides the link, as in any university, with the public and private sector and the university, we are very keen to push the development agenda, and we treat this as a call to action. Maurice, I believe, alluded to the role of academia. What academia can be is at the same time a knowledge center and a blank canvas. We're a knowledge center because we do research, but we're a blank canvas because a university is where different ideas, different philosophies, content, and out of that, we push the boundaries of knowledge. But in this DPI journey, we have to think about a Caribbean. It is a Caribbean summit. And one of the taglines we have in the business school is global knowledge, regional solution. And today the start is about global knowledge, but at the end, we need a regional solution. And my expectations is for a call to action, sorry. My background is in telecommunications and media, more so telecommunication. 25 years ago, we had the opportunity to do our version of Momo. 25 years ago, we laid down one of the most advanced digital telecommunications infrastructure around both the English and Latin Caribbean countries. And why we didn't have mobile money was not because of technology. It wasn't because we didn't have the expertise in the region. It was because our policy regulators did not move. And every time I go to something like this, and I'm looking at my friend Joaquim, we have done many battles together. Our challenge is not the technology, it's not the software, it's not the core infrastructure. That's not the main challenge. Those things are acquirable. We know the use cases. It's the willingness and the imagination. Second thing I believe that we have to tackle here is, and I'm putting on my engineer's hat here, what do? We look at a problem or a challenge, we assess it, we design a solution, we implement the solution, we check if it works, and then we perfect it. Our challenge is when we assess the solution, we have this tendency to perfect it. So if it works for 95% of the population, we don't say, hey, we can solve the pain points of 95%. Let's give them that and then work on the 5%. We stop the project. You know, because my granny who lives at the top of the cockpit country and doesn't have light can't work in the solution. So therefore, let's pause till we fix it for her so nothing gets done. So we have to run fast and do the iterations. And every iteration must increase the inclusivity, but we'll never fix it 100%. And I think that's one of the things which holds us back in the Caribbean. We also have to make it relevant and impactful for the ordinary person if we want it to be at scale. And we do some things digitally. So I'll give you a quick example before I close off. In Jamaica, we have a fitness certificate for motor cars. Then after you do that, you have to go and do registration. And, to say your car is now registered for a certain period of time, and you get a tag which you put on your car physically. And they've kind of half digitalized it. You can now apply online and get your tag, but you still have to go back to the tax office to hand in your old certificate to get a new certificate. So the digital infrastructure is in. What would I do? I would abolish the tag. I would just register it in the system and tie it to your license plate. So that the police, they now have the thing, the app on their phones. When they stop you, they check your license and they would know if you have your fitness registered. It would save the citizen one day or half a day going to the long lines at the tax office. And I have this sort of nightmare that somewhere the government has huge warehouses where they store all these old certificates. But that's something we could change overnight. That would mean that when an employee says they wouldn't have to take half a day off to register their car. Think of the impact on productivity and the quality of life for the ordinary citizen. And I think those are the simple things that if we start to solve quickly, we will get buy-in to the more advanced and impactful things, because people understand that this journey is not some esoteric thing. It will impact our ordinary life. We could have had digital money and made our COVID journey easier if we had implemented mobile money. We wouldn't have had that scramble. So what we do now, as Matthew said, speed has to be a component. What we do now is heavily impactful. So because the bright people had said everything there was to say. I was just giving my thoughts, but it is absolutely critical. It is how we are going to move as a region, as a country. And we have to move far and fast together. So I welcome you as the host of the Caribbean DPI Summit, and I look forward to many, many actionable items coming. Thank you.
So naturally, we had our greetings. We've kind of set the overview and we've kind of set the tone for what we expect the conversations to be like over the next 2.5 days and beyond. And our keynote for this morning is the head of partnerships and senior technical advisor for the Center of Digital Public Infrastructure, which is a pro bono impact organization that helps governments implement digital public infrastructure. Now, he heads the relationship with partners, donors, multilateral organizations, and oversee global efforts in Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia to improve the lives of 1 billion people. Among his many credentials, he was appointed Undersecretary of Digital Government of the Government of Argentina for the period 2015 or 2015 to 2019. As Chief Digital Officer, he advised the President on digital economy and digital transformation matters and led the 2018 G20 discussion on government transformation during Argentina's presidency. Who is he, you might ask? He is Mr. Daniel Obadi, Head of Partnerships, Center for Digital Public Infrastructure. Kindly welcome our keynote speaker for this morning.
I'm going to speak here. It's simpler. So, hi. Thank you, the university, for hosting us in your house. Thank you, University, co-develop, everyone to be here. I'm a builder beside all the government things, and I have the luck to work with a lot of great people in CDPI. So, everyone said everything I had in my deck. And the good thing is, like, I just want to say this is one of the best agendas I've seen for a summit, because you're doing workshops, which I love, not just us talking as an ecosystem. It's like working together. And the first thing is, it's not about technology. And I'm going to cover some DPI, some theory. I'm not pretending to lecture anyone. There's all the smart people on that side. But yes, it's not about technology. Yes, it's about what Matthew said. It's about delivery. If there's a country in the world that understands speed, it's Jamaica, which is right. It was a great comment, I thought, when you said speed, mate. But yeah, it's not about technology. And the good thing is it's not about technology is that when you see the agenda for this event, there's nothing about technology. It's about how we think together on how to solve problems that might include technology. And for that, I want to start with 3 concepts. This is not me. This is Tom Loosemore from the UK government. This is Tom's definition about digital. He said, it's applying culture, processes, businesses, models, technologies of the internet era to respond to people's expectations. And I like to flag 3 words of that I take it from my own. That is internet era, people, and expectation. And that's digital. And I'm seeing that everything is like changed in a language that is not me. But basically, it's people, it's about user-centric. It's like personalization of services. It's like all our phones, all our Netflix experience, Amazon purchases, anything we want is just about us. It's us going to a museum and having a selfie with the painting we want. It's about us. And that's basically this era. And it's about expectations. And we can do whatever technology we want, but the expectation of people and the loss of trust in government is when they don't get the service they want. It's been delivered. And when services don't do what they are expected to do, that breaks that expectation of people. And then it's about the internet era. It's like governments has become an industry of services where data are basically the raw material. And that's digital transformation. It's using whatever we've learned of the last 30 years in technology applied to provide services to people. And when you see digital public infrastructure linked to that, it's like we've been creating these waves of technology that then Alok or Naga or the High Commissioner from India can speak better about the Indian part, but it's about this idea of creating physical infrastructure that in the time were railways, highways, roads, electricity, being developed by the public sector, but also being being used by the private sector, being developed by the private sector. And now it's this idea of building these rails to create innovation, not only in the public, but in the private sector. And this is not new. Again, this is a global approach. This is part of something called DPI map. But I think all the countries are taking different paths to solve the same problem. Different paths every path is right. There's no one wrong here. I'm just playing. The risk of setting a map is that someone looks at the map and saying, I'm not there. Yes, you're not. Because why? I have limited space. But yes, you are. And maybe if you go to the DPI map, you can find you. But what you see here is not just India. It's just not Estonia. It's not just Argentina. It's not just Jamaica. And it's a regional approach. It's a local approach. It's about how you engage with communities. And if you see DPI, I'm going to be extremely simple with this, you can think about an approach to build things that is interoperable, that is a building block, that is extremely minimalist, that is extremely simple, that is diverse, that is connected to an ecosystem. It's not a standalone idea, that is federated, that is decentralized, that can be connected to things. And if you got security, these are like some guide principles to build something in the technology side when you're builders. And then you can take some building blocks to the stuff. You can have identities, you can do payments, you can do shared data, you can do infrastructure on trust, like digital signatures, you can do open APIs, you can have different blocks to build whatever you want. And again, it's not about technology, it's about understanding which are those blocks and what you can connect and build on top. Here are many, unseen it, but I hear many DPGs and things that during the workshops and during the people, you see people building those blocks in that. But while we're here and what we're trying to solve, while we're taking 2.5 days in beautiful Jamaica to think together, we can say that we're trying to solve this. This is a World Bank report on Latin America on why it's so hard to get adoption on DPI, which is like this lack of capacity, lack of trust from citizens, there's no money or affordability. There's a lot of problems and regulations and challenges. And we can say it's this, like this is a report, this is a survey, governments respond to it. But the truth is like, we're trying to solve this. Like, how many of us has been in there, like for ages? Like, I remember my grandmother going to collect her pension, like when I was 13, and she spent like 4 hours under the sun in Argentina. Like, this is what we're trying to solve. It's this. This is an office in Argentina. So, quick story that is not part of my script, but I just realized. I started working in the city of Buenos Aires as Chief Digital Officer in 2007. I was 26 years old. And the first thing I want was to basically dismantle a corrupt office that used to issue building permits in the city. So I went to the office, I saw an office typically like this, and I saw like a chair with a stack of pile of folders. And when I asked about everything to the people that were basically doing the corruption, they were super open on their methods and super candid. I asked, okay, so you get a lot of folders, there's no space, why they're on the chair? And super simple, he said to me, well, that's the people waiting, sitting. That's the people that are not paying. So they sat on that chair and never moves. And that's where the folder. So that's what technology enables sometimes. It creates transparency. You got Nati Karfi from Open Data Charter here, get Open Data, and all these movements creates also equality for people. Clear, everyone is in the same page. So that's where we're trying to solve here, this solve or discuss or think together these 2 days and a half. But it is this what we're trying to solve. We're trying to somehow match government services with user need. And when I say users, I mean people, businesses, organizations, but for this exercise, I'm going to say users. And every time we get in that sweet spot, government is doing what they should do, the expectation, and people are getting the personal services of what they want. Every time we go too far to the government services and don't take people in consideration, there's a lack of empathy. And government sometimes do things like a death certificate expires. Why someone needs to verify and again go through the process to show government that their loved ones are dead? Why we're doing that? That's too far on that side. So that's what we're trying to solve. Again, users, they do things. They work, they travel. You can name use cases. That's what we're trying to solve again with DPI and technology. And anything else is not the focus. If we're just talking about technology, we shouldn't be here. We are really smart. We can solve it. But we need to solve this in a human scale. So, how DPI can help, the whole of society, achieve this exponential change. That's too big for this. Let's start where to begin with. You can start with one minimal incremental scale of whatever you have. It's not true you need $1 billion to do this. It's not true you need to have a greenfield. It's not true if you're a poor country you cannot do it. I come from Argentina. We are poor and we build it. It's like, yes, we are. 50% of poverty, mate. Yes. And so anything that you have, any legacy system you have, with just tiny things and tiny incremental things, you can start building the path on DPI. You can have any type of database to identify users and create an authentication. You don't need digital identity at first. You just need to move some steps forward and then think. You can do payments. You can do any type of certificate can be created from any database. You can create verified credentials with a QR code. You can do open AIs. You can align to standards. You can use digital public goods to scale. The solution is much more simpler. And one thing that I learned from the India's process is that scale requests a level of simplicity we never take in consideration. It's that obvious that we skip it because, it's too simple. That's the Indian story. That's the great thing you can understand about India. It's extremely simple. And any certificate, again, like Trinidad and Tobago, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, others are doing in the Caribbean. It's like you can create, anything that could be machine readable, can be scanned with a QR code, as the doctor said, with your permit for your car. It's like anything can be done. And again, maybe it's one API, 2 APIs. Anything can be, identity card, businesses, vaccines, but also in the private sector. The great innovation can come to the private sector on how you set the discussions, how we can work together these 2 days and a half to find this use case that can accelerate the process in the Caribbean region, but also for Latin America. Some countries adopted India, 1.4 million people. Argentina, we did 19 million driving licenses in just 65 days. The EU is launching a huge digital wallet standard for private and public sector to build on top of that standard. Then we had Singapore with some VCs and digital identities. If you take agriculture, and I took this exercise, which I find super interesting, you can break it into registries, data sharing, trust, open APIs, and payments. And they have building blocks. You can have a building block for land registries and for livestock and other things. If you talk about payments, you can talk about eKYC or authentication. You can talk about G2P payments. And then you can take basically caching, cash out standards. There's a lot of building blocks we can discuss. Again, focus on the use case. We're working with Trinidad and Tobago Ishnam is here, you should go to Ishnam's session on what we're doing with the education system with University of Trinidad and Tobago and the West Indies University, on how that impacts in the job market ecosystem in the islands. We are working with Brazil on verified credentials for their rural populations and loan access. I'm going to skip it just because the text is broken. And to close, and I'm conscious I'm basically stopping you from lunch. Why we are here, what we're trying to solve. Again, I'm going back to this question. I think to close, I start with Tom Lucemore's idea. I'm going to end with Pramod Varma's idea. So we're trying to solve this. At the end of the day, it's a way to understand who I am, what I do, and what I have. And again, represents like a human-centered DPI of how my life that has a multiple touch points in governments and the private sector and other sectors like academic life are being connected, like similar what the internet is, and how we can plan together on how to fulfill all those expectations of the users. And to close, I'm going to leave you with our wiki, where you can access a lot of things about DPI that we've written, and it's better of what I can say. So thank you all. Let's enjoy these 2 days. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so very much, Sir Daniel. I'm so sorry about the information, the content being a little bit garbled there, but we absolutely understood what you said. In fact, I started to wonder if you created that slide with Dr. McBean, because Dr. McBean came earlier using the example of the lines and the tax office, and he also spoke about a warehouse with whole heap of papers. And then, of course, Daniel comes up here, and I'm going, there's the line that Dr. McBean was speaking about, and then we saw the room with the papers, and then you went even further by speaking about scale, and you spoke about it just being very simple. Sometimes it is looking for that very small thing and then making the iterations, which of course tied right into what Dr. McBean was saying. And certainly I think one of the things that resonated with me the most is the fact of it being simple. We talk about digital and we make it something really big when sometimes what you're trying to solve is just really small, and we could start from there. Sir Daniel, thank you so very much for being our keynote this morning. And of course, we encourage everyone here, as Daniel was doing, for you to go and visit the different sessions and really learn about what is happening, different countries and different spaces. And so we dive into the very final part of our opening ceremony for the 2025 Caribbean DPI Summit. And it comes in the form of a panel discussion. Now, our esteemed moderator needs no introduction, but it would be remiss of me if we didn't. Professor Gunja Mansingh, Department of Computing, UWI Mona, and she's a conference co-chair. And a few who may not know her, you don't. Hi. This is when the she's such a positive. No, it's okay. You know, when you're introducing someone as powerful as her, you know, everything goes out. Professor Gunja Mansingh, professor of data science at the Department of Computing. So you know she bright. Like not just normal, ordinary bright. We just say bright. She teaches various courses at the undergraduate and the graduate level in computer science, information systems, and data science, including business intelligence, programming, artificial intelligence, data visualization, and knowledge discovery and analytics. She's the chairperson of eGov Jamaica Limited, the company responsible for ICT services and solution for government of Jamaica. Our esteemed moderator, we welcome you. Joining her also a panelist who we are honored to have, His Excellency Mr. Mayank Joshi, High Commissioner of India here to Jamaica. He assumed the office of High Commissioner of India to Jamaica on the 25th of June of last year. He joined the Indian Forest Service in 2003 and has held diplomatic assignments in France, Myanmar, permanent mission of India to the United Nations in New York and Japan. We welcome him to our panel. We welcome Mr. Rodney Taylor, Secretary General, Caribbean Telecommunications Union, CTU. He's currently, as we mentioned earlier, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, an intergovernmental organization responsible for harmonization of telecommunications, ICT policies within the Caribbean. Sir Taylor, we welcome you. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Dimitris Heraklios, Associate Economic Affairs Officer, United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. As part of the Digital Transformation Unit, he's a member of the team serving as the Technical Secretariat of ELAC, the digital agenda for Latin America and the Caribbean, with a personal focus on the Caribbean region. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our fireside chat, our panel discussion, the topic, the DPI approach and regional cooperation. Over to you, Professor.
So good morning, everyone. We have a very exciting this morning, and that is DPI approach and regional cooperation. And this morning, we heard many terms that really caught my attention. I heard someone say foundational and not futuristic. And the truth is that DPIs are foundational. And if they're foundational, why are we lagging so far behind? We need to really catch up on the speed of those. Then I also heard cooperation and not competitiveness. And we as a region in Caribbean, CARICOM, really need to understand this notion of cooperation. And we have been doing it. Just recently, I was hearing about the system CAPS, which is a payment and scheduling system for banks to do organizations to business in CARICOM with their own currencies. So why not with the DPIs? And we have an exciting panel and our panelists, and you heard their profiles. So first, I'm going to really ask them by inviting them to really give their perspectives on regional cooperation, because this panel is going to set the theme going forward for regional cooperation. So in their mind, how do they see regional cooperation as an enabler for digital transformation for the Caribbean SIDS, which is your small island developing states? So I would like to start with Mr. Taylor, if you can give us your perspective.
Sure, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be in beautiful Jamaica, Jamrock. And I want to thank the organizers, Dr. McNaughton, for the invitation to sit here and to be a part of this summit. When you're talking about regional cooperation in the space of technology or digital technology, you're really talking, this is our space, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. We're an intergovernmental organization founded in 1989 by CARICOM heads of government, specifically to promote harmonization in information communications technology. Back then, it was very focused on telecommunications, but of course, the sector has evolved rapidly. So we, at the highest level, we support the work of our ministers who have responsibility for digital transformation. Here in Jamaica, the Honorable Darrell Vaz, I believe it is portfolio split as well under the Prime Minister's office, so that's fine. And it was mentioned that we will be having our annual ICT week here in Jamaica in September, and all of you are invited to attend. So we support the work of the policymakers. We have strategic seminars where we work with the private sector. Our last such seminar was in St. Kitts and Nevis. We had the likes of Amazon, these big tech companies, and Google, and of course, regional operators, Digicel, Cable and Wireless, and so on, who talk about the challenges within the sector and opportunities for growth and development driven by information and communication technology. So awareness building is one of the key things we do with the policymakers in the region so that they understand the value of digital public infrastructure and so on. We also do that at the level of the Executive Council, really the advisors to the ministers. We represent the interests of the region in international policy development spaces, such as the International Telecoms Union. We help to shape the agenda for things like the World Telecoms Development Conference, where that is driven by the development sector of the ITU. So we advance regional priorities. What are the issues we're struggling with? In particular around things like connectivity, right? So we promote a robust, resilient telecommunications infrastructure. We promote harmonization and cooperation. And I agree. I think it was said about the issue of competing. Yes, we're competing, but not amongst ourselves. We're competing with the rest of the world. And in order to do that, we have to have robust, resilient infrastructure. We worked on projects that were funded by the World Bank, for example, CARSIT, which deployed subsea fiber cables to connect some of the countries in the Eastern Caribbean. And if it's just one thing I'd like to say is that we have the development banks here in SONA, and I'd love to see whenever there are funding national initiatives that there's a regional component. I think that's going to be critical. And as countries develop their own national agendas, that there's also a regional component. So that we're not just paying lip service to the issue of regional harmonization and cooperation, but there's tangible resources behind it that will help to drive it.
Thank you. Thank you, Rodney, for that. And if I may ask Dimitris to give his perspective.
Can you hear me? Great. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to address the summit in behalf of the United Nations Economic Commission for the Latin America and the Caribbean. I would like to extend a special thanks to Professor McNaughton for the invitation, but as well for his dedication in the ILAC 26 agenda. And I have to say that we meet at a pivotal moment for the Caribbean, not only for its digital future, but as well for its institutional and economic resilience. We often speak for digital transformation as it is a choice, as it is a strategic decision for governments to consider. And perhaps a few years ago, that was the case. But allow me to offer a reflection, a prediction, if you want. In the very near future, the degree of digitalization will be the defining marker between what we call developing, and less developed states. And the digital transformation is no longer optional. It's not even a necessity for all the societies. It's an inevitable process that take us forward. And the key question is no longer if we will get there, but when, and if that arrival will be too late to assure inclusion and competitiveness. And crucially, it's no longer about just coverage, connectivity, and public services online. It's something much deeper. And allow me to state a simple idea. We cannot have digital transformation without digital inclusion. And we cannot have digital inclusion without digital public infrastructure today. In Latin America and the Caribbean, we had made significant progress the last decades. Until 2023, almost 80% of the population were online. They had some kind of different access. But this is not the case anymore. In the Caribbean region, in the same period, in the same time mark, less than 1 out of 3 residences, they had access in what we call meaningful connectivity, which means not only affordable and high quality internet, but also adequate devices, basic skills, and the public services and the services to be able to be productive with those elements. And those services is nothing else than the digital public infrastructure. And without interoperable systems today, in reality, we cannot speak about converting digital transformation into opportunity. We need to make sure that those elements are there. And digital public infrastructure today is a very basic element of what we call meaningful connectivity. It wasn't a few years ago, in reality. It wasn't in the studies, it wasn't in the criteria that we set it. But today, we have to refocus and understand that it's in the very heart of the digital transformation.
Thank you. Thank you, Dimitris. And Your Excellency, what can I say about the India story? It is a big exemplar. The whole world is talking about the India story. So please share your perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Gunjan. First of all, at the outset, let me commend the University of West Indies and you and your team and your partners and all the sponsors. I see so many stakeholders here for instituting this very first Caribbean Digital Public Infrastructure Summit. It's very commendable. It's a much needed uh, area of discussion in the Caribbean. Before I go on to the India story, let me say a few words about the regional cooperation because I was listening to various speakers, all the speakers in the first session, in the opening session, and they all touched very important part of the discussion was that what about Caribbean and what about DPI in Caribbean. And that is where I think is where the essence of digital public infrastructure in Caribbean lies in context of the regional cooperation, population scale implementation of digital public infrastructure, talking about 1.4 billion people. And here in CARICOM, in Jamaica, we have around 3 million people. All of CARICOM together, probably 18, 20 million people. And economy of CARICOM probably is around $120 billion. India is about $3 trillion, $4 trillion now. And similarly, other countries which have applied digital public infrastructure, the scales are very high. So the question, the problem solution, the problem, the question, the problem lies in whether digital public infrastructure, if it is being considered in CARICOM, how do you go about it? Is it individual country-based approach or is it regional cooperation-based approach? And I think that is what probably this DPI summit will also be taking a look at. And here I would like to happily share India's story. Look, uh, we all know about, I think Mr. Daniel made a very good presentation on the digital public infrastructure, about the layers and about how the thing is, the whole infrastructure works. In India, I would restrict to India. So you see, India 2008, 2009, we started talking about a digital ID. The idea was again to step up, to go into the realm of digitization, automation, digitization, using internet as a force of economy. And then over a period, we were having our initial problems. But by 2014, that is around 11 years back, a major change happened when we implemented it on a nationwide scale. The National Digital ID, the National Identification System, which we call as Aadhaar. Interestingly, Aadhaar in Hindi, but its translation, the meaning is foundation. And it's not just Providence that this foundation, this Aadhaar, National Identification System of India, foundation is what became the foundation of India's digital transformation story into digital public infrastructure, which we see of today. So India's story of digital public infrastructure is very simplistic. Mr. Daniel talked about it. A very simple digital ID with only your name, your address, and your photograph on the physical card, backed by hidden biometrics of your fingerprint. That's it. This particular foundation of ID system, no complications, no your personal data, no your bank account, nothing is there on this card. It's a simple card, 12 numbered digit is given to this particular card. That's it. This became the paperless identification system, the 12-digit number. It's like your IP address in digital world. It became a foundation of everything which was supposed to come which came afterwards, not supposed to come. After that, we built on it on 3 to 4 layers, slowly. 2014, you have national identification system, paperless, physical, paperless presence in the system, digital world. So you have ID number for the digital world. Then came your paperless authentication. With this digital ID came Know Your Customer, Digital Know Your Customer, eKYC. It's again an application program. And also e-signature. So you have a digital ID, but how do you know this is digital ID? So on the internet, you have application programming interface systems which authenticate it with your help of e-signature and KYC. Then comes the third layer. This is digital payment system, revolutionary. This is what we know as unified payment interface. Here we have people from India. We have Mr. Balakrishnan, who worked with UPI at that time in NPCI. He worked over it 2014-15. This was launched in 2016. This became the third layer. And the fourth layer, very importantly, was consent on data exchange. How do I allow the digital system or the user or the vendor to use my digital ID? Again, backend application programming interface. It brings in the consent to use this data, to use my digital payment system. So data is authorized, payment is authorized, and there you are. A digital public infrastructure is made, which is called as layered. So you have paperless presence, you have paperless authentication, you have paperless payment, and you have paperless consent. And above these four layers comes all the programming, delivery services, vendors, open network for digital commerce. You have hiring of cars, you have purchasing from markets, everything which you can build. This today has led to 18 billion transactions on digital payment. We have in 1 month, 18 billion transactions. In 1 month, the value of these 18 billion transactions is nearly $600 million. Not only that, 9 billion digital documents have been issued by the government of India and various other with the digital public infrastructure. 400 million users of digital documents, 400 million users of digital payment system, 1.38 billion digital IDs issued, 1 billion internet users, 700 to 800 billion 800 million internet mobile users, 400 million smartphone users. This is only India alone. And why I am telling you all this is that if India has done it in population scale, it is not difficult for Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi. I think we're all confused in our millions and billions just now, but one number important is India is 1.4 billion and Caribbean is 20 odd million. So now from that, the story that we heard of the 1.4 billion, and Rodney, I have this question for you. The concept of a single ICT space has been around for close to a decade. Is this idea still relevant in the DPI landscape? And if so, how? Can we piggyback on that idea?
Yes, thank you. The idea of the single ICT space is as relevant as the idea of CARICOM. If we believe that there is still value in something called a Caribbean community, there's value in creating a harmonious space where we can all leverage technology and digital public infrastructure. What are the challenges we have? And I'm fine to, we can take the year off, stick 2025 on it, pay a nice graphic artist to redesign the cover and call it a new plan. But the reality is there's nothing wrong with the plan. It is an idea, the concept of one contiguous space the digital embodiment of the CARICOM single market and economy. Under that, and part of the challenge, of course, in the region is implementation, and that was mentioned before. We have wonderful plans, nothing wrong with the plan, but the execution and implementation of it. And under that same plan in 2022, we were able to reduce significantly the roaming charges because we believe if this is one contiguous space, then I should be able to move from Barbados to Trinidad or to Jamaica and use my mobile phone without worrying about exorbitant roaming charges. I should be able to access my data and so on. So we're able, through the Declaration of St. George's, to reduce significantly the roaming in CARICOM. We want to take that full to complete elimination of roaming. But under that, there's significant scope for harmonization. You talk about digital public infrastructure. Data protection, we have to look at the data governance regime in the Caribbean. If we're talking about interoperability, moving data across borders, to what extent do our countries have adequate data protection legislation in each jurisdiction, cybersecurity legislation that supports it, and all of these things? I would love to see the day when a digital identity issued by the government of Jamaica is accepted fully in Barbados, and I can use it to open a bank account, and it proves, who I am. I move and I work at the regional level, and I know the frustrations of simply opening a bank account, of having to go into a government office and get these credentials. So my dream is a Caribbean where there's that level of cooperation that allows any sort of digital service, money in particular. We're still using the US dollar to pay for regional transactions. That is a huge non-tariff barrier. It is a hindrance to regional trade. It's costly. It's time-consuming. So the ability to pay as well, right? And we've been working with a company called CaribCoin to address the issue of to produce a complementary currency that allows for cross-border payments without having to use a correspondent bank in the United States. So all of these things are still very much relevant and even more relevant as we move into the digital age.
I'm happy to hear you emphasize some of the things. And maybe there's need for, like GDPR is for EU, we need to have our own data protection act for the region, because I think each country is doing their own. Jamaica has done theirs, and I'm sure the others are also following and doing that. So very, very important that how we can then work as a region. I would like to ask you, Dimitris, ECLAC often emphasizes digital divide and beyond infrastructure, and we know that it's not just about technology and connectivity. The socioeconomic barriers actually hinder digital adoption in a big way. So how do you think these can be addressed in the Caribbean?
Nice. I said before that almost 80% of the population of the Latin America and the Caribbean are connected, but only 1/3 of the population of the Caribbean is currently enjoying what we call meaningful connectivity. But I would like to step in another fact which emphasizes the digital divide, and not only. In fact, in Latin America and the Caribbean today, 1 out of 2, 50% of the workers, of the labor participants are informal. And this is a huge number. It's 1 out of 2. Look at your left, look at your right. Possibly you will find no one here. But that does not mean that doesn't exist. The fact that informal labor is not presented in our high-level summits or in our fancy United Nations assemblies does not mean that doesn't exist. And in reality, exists very deeply in our foundations, in the foundations of our socioeconomic structure. And there is a very significant reason why the productivity today is reducing in the region. We are producing more, we are producing with less, but our productivity is reducing. In 1950, we needed, as a region, 2.5 hours to produce what the United States did in 1. In 2023, we needed almost 4 hours to produce what the United States did in 1. And the main reason for that is a huge gap in digital skills and the fragile access to digital empowerment. And in reality, this is the main reason because of the low productivity. In ICLAC, we are advocating a lot about the inclusion, about how the digital transformation need to be inclusive and transformative. And DPI provides the foundational systems that underpin the digital state. Without these core layers, we cannot have digital transformation. Assures social security, distributes the access to digital skills equally, and offers a concluded and integrated experience to the people of the region. And in fact, in the Caribbean, it's not an option, the regional cooperation. Dr. Johnson said before that if you want to go far, go together. Back home in my native language, we are saying that if you work together, success will take care of itself. But in the Caribbean, it's not an option. We don't have the option. It's a strategic imperative to work together. And in reality, we can't afford 15 fragmented payment systems. We can't afford 15 siloed data exchange models. And we can't afford what we call identity systems. And in reality, this creates a unique opportunity. The fact that we can actually afford them creates the opportunity to work together and build something fast, reliable, and efficient. And the answer in that is to understand that there is not a dilemma between sovereignty, digital sovereignty, and cooperation, and regional cooperation. It's two facts, it's two roads that they are going in parallel, and in order for both of them to be successful, they need to work together and take advantage of the most of the technologies that we can have access today.
Thank you for that, Dimitris. And it really, your comments are highlighting that we can't be in a race. We can't be in a technology race, digital race, because I think right now people are in a race, and worldwide. I would not just say the Caribbean. And we know that races in things like this don't end up well. We have seen examples of that. That when you're in for some kind of a race where they're, at country levels, it's going to be a disaster. So I'm very happy that in this world when we are moving towards, which was first global and now it's not so much global, we are still talking about how regional cooperation can benefit all the nations who would be collaborating, and that's essential. So Your Excellency, India had championed the DPI agenda, which when they chaired the G20 summit, I saw so many posters, and when the DPI was launched there, and the whole definition of DPI became so is so fundamental to this agenda. So, what elements of that advocacy can Caribbean countries learn and benefit from?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was not in Delhi when G20 summit happened, but we all followed it very closely. If you recall, G20 summit 2 years back in India was built on a foundation of one earth, one family, one future. And the idea was to, under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, to share the best practices and experiences what India had in various fields. And the one sector which really surpassed, which was transformational for India, was the digital public infrastructure, with the help of our foundations, which I just spoke about. So the G20 summit was a great success because of, on the digital front, digital transformation, digital public infrastructure front, because the outcome document recognized that there needs to be commitment by all international community to focus on helping every country achieve digital public infrastructure. But it did not end there. In fact, the outcome documents tried to give a definition to digital public infrastructure, and they succeeded very well. And it talked about equitable access, it talked about open network, open standards, it talked about human rights, it talked about freedoms, I talk about social justice. So everything is there in the definition. If you'll see, a wonderful definition it is. And in addition to that, what it did was also as an annexure to the document, they added kind of guiding principles to the digital public infrastructure, which would act as a guiding light for countries. These principles were again two sets of principles. There were 12 principles, and they were also the baseline, which was given as technology, governance, and kind of a commitment, coordination, collaboration among countries. So with these two layers, they also talked about the three layers. They also talked about identified three layers of again digital ID, about digital payment systems, and also about digital data exchange consent as layers. So it is all there in the G20 outcome document, which was there. What was decided again, as you talk about advocacy, was to India took the lead to set up a global digital public infrastructure repository, where today we have more than 15, I think 18 countries which have shared their experiences online on the website. You can go and see on the website. These are all open source, open network, and that is how the digital public infrastructure is progressing over the world. The idea was to not leave digital public infrastructure in the realm of private sector's hand only. It was about making it open source. It was about making it available to countries free of cost. It was about also talking about voluntary contributions and funding. It's all there in the G20 outcome document, which is marvelous. And also, they launched a digital playbook with the help of UNDP. So UNDP is the, I would say, the penholder of the digital playbook. And they are there right now working with many countries. Also, it encouraged many other ways to open network, open sources to help. For example, MOSIP now is doing wonderful work. So the idea was to get all the international community commit itself to not only develop digital public infrastructure for themselves, but also for helping small island developing states, developing countries, least developing countries to scale up their digital transformation at a fast rate. And that is what we are. Right now, I will share because I don't know whether I'll get a chance to speak again. So India is not now moving ahead from digital public infrastructure. You would think that digital public infrastructure is the end game. No. In India, what we realized after digital public infrastructure currently, and you will see that despite our digital public infrastructure being very, very successful and very applaudable, there are thousands and thousands of individual modular digital public infrastructures which are still there in India. For example, I was talking about taxi services, Uber. Then you have delivery services by Amazon. You have delivery services by, let's say, Zomato and Big Basket. Now, these are all privately owned applications. So how do you make them talk to each other? And that is where now we are going into a next level. And again, above this will be artificial intelligence. So the end game now today in India seems to be moving from digital public infrastructure to digital public intelligence. So that is what we are talking about. Yeah.
You have given us a title for our next summit. And thank you. And I would like to thank all my panelists. I think we are running a little late. So some key concepts that emerged from all of them was scalability is important. And hence, if we work together as a region, we can get scalability in that domain. I think CTU and ECLAC are are willing to work collaboratively with the region so we can ensure that no one gets left behind. There's no digital divide, even amongst the Caribbean countries. We don't want a country to be left behind. And CTU is working towards policies to make sure that we can all go forward. And what we learned about DPIs was from the G20 summit, meaning which we knew before too, but was that they are open standards, open source, some key words that we keep on forgetting, interoperable. And Maurice, these are some of the things maybe we need to examine where we have failed, what were the things that we didn't have in place. And I think with these principles, and if we can have this DPI as this shared railway system where we are sharing all the tracks and all the countries are participating in sharing their tracks as they propel their digital transformation agenda. So I thank you all for this sharing your insights on regional cooperation. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the opening ceremony. Just very quickly, if there are any takeaways at all, DPI is not futuristic, it is foundational. It's not a choice, it's an urgent imperative. Regional cooperation is not an option. Speed is a component of scale. Countries should collectively and individually be matching the ambition of its people. And Dr. McBean said something very interesting. Of course, inclusivity is important. You won't always get it all at the beginning, but just start and then improve. Thank you so very much for making it the 2025 DPI Caribbean Summit. You have 2 more days to go, a lot of other sessions coming up. So we invite you to take your coffee break. It's 15 minutes, it's downstairs. And when we get back, we'll have a spotlight on Jamaica right here in this main room and over the next 2 days. It has been a pleasure serving you as host. Take care.